Let's take an MA Minute. I am Kwame Phillips, Associate Director for Multicultural Affairs in the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. We're going to take a minute to talk with Jenna, the Graduate Assistant for Disability Student Community Outreach, D.I.S.C.O. And she's going to take us through a conversation around intersectionality of gender and learning disabilities.
Learning disabilities affect millions of people worldwide, making it harder for them to learn and process information. However, women with learning disabilities often struggle in silence because their conditions are underdiagnosed. In this video, we'll explore the reasons behind the underdiagnosis of learning disabilities in women and the impact it has on their lives. Hi, I'm Jenna Grissom. I'm the Graduate Assistant for D.I.S.C.O, Disabled Student Community Outreach at CDI, and it's time for you to take an MA Minute. There are several reasons why learning disabilities in women may be underdiagnosed. One factor is the gender bias that exists in the diagnosis of learning disabilities. Historically, learning disabilities were considered to be a male-dominated condition. As a result, assessment tools and diagnostic criteria have often been based on the experiences and characteristics of males, leading to a lack of understanding of how learning disabilities can affect women differently. Another reason for the underdiagnosis of learning disability in women is that the symptoms may be less obvious or more easily masked. Women with learning disabilities may have learned to compensate for these difficulties, often by developing coping mechanisms and strategies that allow them to function in society. This masking effect can make it challenging for educators and health professionals to identify learning disabilities in women, as they may appear to be achieving academically or socially despite their difficulties. Furthermore, there are societal pressures on women to conform to certain gender expectations, which may make them hesitant to seek help for learning difficulties. The stigma attached to learning disabilities can be particularly challenging for women, who may feel ashamed or embarrassed to admit that they have a problem. This reluctance to seek help may delay diagnosis and treatment, resulting in long-term consequences for their academic and professional development. There is also evidence to suggest that learning disabilities in women are often misdiagnosed as mental health conditions. For example, women with dyslexia may be diagnosed with anxiety or depression, as they may struggle with reading and writing demands. Similarly, women with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD, may be diagnosed with anxiety or depression, as their symptoms may be perceived as emotional or behavioral problems rather than a learning disability. In conclusion, the underdiagnosis of learning disabilities in women is a significant issue that has long-term consequences for their academic, professional, and personal development. It is essential to recognize that learning disabilities affect all genders, and that assessment tools and diagnostic criteria should be based on a gender-inclusive approach. As an educational institution, we can begin by making additional efforts to reduce the stigma associated with learning disabilities and to encourage women to seek help when they need it. We need to advocate for more research into the underdiagnosis of learning disabilities in women. Through a greater understanding of this issue, we can develop more effective interventions and support mechanisms to ensure that women with learning disabilities can reach their full potential. Join us in taking action in the underdiagnosis of women with learning disabilities. Let's work together to create a society that supports the empowerment of all individuals, regardless of gender or ability.
Thank you for taking an MA Minute with Jenna and I today. We hope that you learned something, and we hope that you found ways to continue to explore and understand more about the intersectionality of gender and disabilities.
Be sure to like and follow D.I.S.C.O on Instagram at disco.jhu.